So, folks, this video is about how Donald Trump is eroding the democratic system in the United States. Oh? I used to think that the democratic system in the United States was the most stable because it has been established for over 200 years. The Constitution holds a sacred status, and it has truly built in many checks and balances. But I have come to realize that it can still be surprisingly fragile. The most important thing is that, in the end, all these systems rely on the quality of the people and whether they are conscious of the need to uphold democratic institutions. For instance, on March 21st, President Donald Trump revoked the security clearances of Hillary Clinton, Kamala Harris, and nearly 12 others, canceling them all. Revoking their security clearances, does that mean they can't enter any federal buildings? They can't access any intelligence, things like that. Also, members of the House of Representatives. This list includes Fiona Hill, a Russia expert, because they criticized Donald Trump. Earlier, Donald Trump had already revoked their clearances. Isn't Blinken funny? This person originally knew the most about national secrets, and now they're not allowed to enter federal government buildings. National Security Advisor Sullivan also revoked Biden's clearance, and Biden revoked the clearance of former National Security Advisor Bolton, meaning those who criticized him. And what about Pompeo's Secret Service? These two people, they are under threat of assassination by Iran, which is quite alarming. And then Biden's security clearance was revoked. In big letters, they mocked Biden with, "Joe, you were fired," saying that the 82-year-old Biden has a poor memory. All right. The latest topic of discussion is that on March 18th, there was a public call on Truth Social to impeach the Chief District Judge of Washington, D.C., Chief District Judge Beryl Howell, which has sparked significant controversy. I need to clarify something. She wasn't appointed by Obama. She was appointed by George W. Bush. However, during Obama's term, she was promoted. If there's a promotion, it's done by the Chief Justice, and it has nothing to do with the Obama administration. All right. Judge Beryl Howell ruled to suspend the Trump administration because this is a very controversial issue, meaning you export some people, you capture some people, and those people don't go through a trial. There's no due process. You cite the Alien Enemies Act of 1798, which is a notorious law from the Qing dynasty, and then you export them to a third country, not the country they came from. Then they are detained indefinitely. Many people think this is right, saying those gang members deserve it. Do you think they should be released? The question is, how do you know they are gang members? It turns out that someone said he had a tattoo, and what was the tattoo? They assumed he was a gang member because of it, but it was actually a Real Madrid team tattoo. So even a Real Madrid tattoo is considered a gang sign. All right. Donald Trump on social media said if the government doesn't have the power to deport murderers or other criminals from our country, oh, this is the case. In many instances, you really can't deport murderers and criminals from this education system. For example, if they have American citizenship, you can't deport them, can you? Everyone in the United States is entitled to human rights treatment, and these rights are for everyone, including even those with serious crimes. Because the left-wing judges want to take over the president's responsibilities. Our country is in a very difficult situation. Meaning, does the president just need someone to say this person is a murderer or a drug dealer, and then that person is not protected by human rights? Let me ask you, is that how it is? If that's the case, it's best it doesn't happen to you. That's it. As a result, U.S. Chief Justice John Roberts made a rare public statement, saying this violates the legal rules established over 200 years in the United States. That is, you can impeach a judge, but not because you don't like their ruling. The tradition of over 200 years clearly states that impeachment is not aimed at a judge's decision. The appropriate response to disagreement is not because you don't like their ruling. If you disagree with their ruling, why not appeal? Isn't that what appeals are for? Surely, with any judge's ruling, some people will agree, and some will disagree. If you disagree, just appeal. You can't impeach a judge because of that, can you? According to the Constitution, impeaching a judge must be based on serious crimes and misconduct, like if they committed assault, or something like that, which is misconduct, or if they committed a serious crime. The House of Representatives initiates the impeachment, and the Senate is responsible for the trial. In American history, 15 judges have been impeached, and 8 were found guilty because it was proven that they were corrupt or committed a crime. No one has ever been impeached just because you disagree with a judge's decision. If that were the case, judges wouldn't need to make rulings. Judges would have to rule based on what the president or those people think should be the decision, right? The head of the Democracy Diversity Project at the University of Gothenburg in Sweden has warned that if the current situation continues, the United States will lose its status as a democratic country in next year's report. The United States will no longer be a democratic country if things continue like this. A democratic country must have several specific characteristics, one of which is universal suffrage, and this is alarming. Another is the spirit of the rule of law. Without the spirit of the rule of law, it is not a democratic country. If the rule of law cannot be established, it is not democratic legislation. Additionally, there must be protection of certain human rights, as well as freedom of the press and freedom of speech. These 3 points are the most fundamental. Is it a democratic country? Lindbergh said, if the situation continues, American democracy won't last 6 months. The latest report still lists it as a free and democratic country, but who knows about next year? This project includes 202 countries, with 3,000 to 10,000 data points, and 4,200 scholars collaborating. They measure 600 attributes of democracy to assess your country. For the first time, authoritarian countries have surpassed democratic ones, 91 to 88, and nearly 3/4 of the world's population live under authoritarian regimes. Because China has 1.4 billion people, and the whole of Africa, yes, the whole of Africa, and all the Middle Eastern countries too. Pakistan as well. So you can see that 75% of the world's population is under authoritarian regimes. Let's take a look at the recent trends, shall we? There are 26 countries that are continuing to democratize. The number of countries dropped from 26 to 19, while the number of countries that began to democratize and become authoritarian dropped to 45, which increased significantly from 12. A decrease. The freedom of speech and expression has worsened significantly, increasing from 7 to 44. This is happening even as the United States leads these efforts and when they attempt to spread these ideas to Europe. The entire world is affected. by this, globally impacted. Elections are becoming increasingly unfair, rising from 10 to 25. Meanwhile, improvements in freedom of speech have decreased from 29 to 8, and the fairness of elections has increased from 30 to 10. Globally, democracy is receding, and this wave of populism is sweeping across the world. The report mentions that Donald Trump pardoned 1,500 supporters who were involved in the events of January 6th. He dismissed agencies' duplication. What do you have to say about this issue? Behind it, of course, Trump. The inspectors know these people. It's very strange, he even made a promise to that person who executed a document in the underworld, a fate certificate of one. It's shocking to be involved in murder and anti-independence actions from Trump. I don't know if he has loyalty to Donald Trump. And you would, and military high-ranking official. Also possible. Written as new, age of staff. And placed him with the right to take it in, which is really unusual. PDC many high-ranking military officials also have PDC and dismiss people from the FBI and CIA, resulting in those human beings being completely loyal to him because of the president's pardon, claiming that parting side without top hand was invalid, which was a threat, not just a thread, of impossible actions on university. Colombia has already backed down because they will help with government subsidies. Now, we are trying in the University of Pennsylvania, for example, individual women's washroom. Also, sports all federal. City will be canceled. Also, diversity is a very special relationship there. Subsistence results. This is what I like to see them. All rights, day when drugs act. Because due process to express house, kids, drug, members. This is war, first of all, the best of life as you are now in the world rank. These people as foreigners are right, it's never been done, using his laws during peacetime. And let us make it was used to 120,000 Japanese people, internet, and their government technology, and computer aid for using this work. Now, the issue is whether these should be used. Currently, President tells the judge, not allow. The question is better. Not only did the matter in the exportation of immigrants, they didn't listen to it. Oh, this is a big problem, meaning no way. Still, take a look at Donald Trump's pure life. Talk about separation of powers. People in Congress, they don't have to speak up, because traditional Republicans who would speak out and drive out anyone who does the degree within an extremely high probability. So no action controls majorities of Congress, and they are cooperating with Donald Trump's actions. So that means intermarch separated powers, only the judiciaries are left. Donald Trump, Boulder Cove, in all, old things, coming and determined to do this. Miller, lives there, crucial in this process. This key stick. Whether Donald Trump or ultimately, Badtown extreme sportive and break-free resolve. Live music to complete with court's order, and the court can hold him accountable. Happens to American democracy. Collapse in people. In other words, Donald Trump gave an unconventional speech to the Department of Justice, calling political opponents come in front of core law enforcement personnel, goes against democratic traditions, which require you to respect your opponent. That's why they are called the opposition. Moreover, here it went, as far as to say that seen on MSNBC is illegal. He claimed that media is illegal and any safe haven about it. Americans were surprised, and I was surprised, that they actually like him as president. Is intimidating. Zuckerberg said he should be jailed. So before the election, Zuckerman claimed that Democrats interfered with this freedom of press during the pandemic. Many people also do not love money to Donald Trump. Subsequently, fact-checking on Facebook was reported. Miller took the speech very seriously. Hey, why would he suddenly claim that the media is illegal? How can the media be illegal? Media's reaction was weak, as this behavior of his has already been accepted by everyone and the media is completely bullied. He banned all those disobedient media from entering the White House for interviews, and he even sued them, right? Yes. Biden had said the same thing. It would have become the biggest news of the past 100 years, claiming that the media is illegal and that opponents are scum. Donald Trump's high-risk standoff with the courts cannot continue indefinitely. Sooner or later, there will be a direct conflict with a judge, and while the judge can't move the president, they can order the arrest of some officials. This is the president, isn't it? If they don't allow the arrest of some officials, there will definitely be a direct conflict. Whoever carries out the president's orders, if it's illegal, will be charged with contempt of court. This is the situation. A judge believes that Donald Trump's action of closing a federal agency violates the Constitution and strips Congress of its power. This involves the fact that the establishment of any federal agency in the United States is done through Congress and is provided with funding. The U.S. President does not have the authority to revoke or cancel them. Additionally, there are agencies that establish bylaws, meaning Congress has delegated its legislative power to a group of people. This committee can establish rules that have legal effect, and they can impose fines but cannot imprison people. These have always been independent, yet Donald Trump ordered them to follow his directives and prohibited them from expressing independent legal opinions. He interpreted the actions of the two Democratic members of the Independent Trade Commission. Now, these commissions, right? Generally, they are like this. Along with the National Campaign Committee, when someone needs to retire, these are bipartisan, requiring equal representation from both parties to show fairness. Because these independent trade commissions, right? It might benefit certain states, right? Some states might not benefit, or it might favor Democrats or Republicans, so both parties must agree. He then influences the Democrats, meaning he will control all these commissions. Adjusting at the university, a happy professor said, "We have never seen a president so comprehensively attempting to usurp and consolidate power from so many branches of government, not to mention doing this within the first 2 months of the presidency. We have never seen a president intending to centralize power like this. You want your centralization, eh? Just Like that, I will explain to everyone about controlling this check and balance of the president's power. It's about the legislative, executive, and judicial branches, as I mentioned. You also have, really, the American system of check and balance is the most rigorous. There is also the independent power of each state, and the media is protected by the First Amendment of the Constitution, along with important legislation. In the Senate, you need 60 votes, otherwise there's the power to filibuster. With so many checks and balances, Donald Trump intended to accumulate in 2 months the power that others take 5 to 8 years to gather, moving into the stage of a dictator. This is frightening. Hey, what about the others? They took many years to do it, but Donald Trump, actually after he left office, the Heritage Foundation came up with the 2025 plan. This plan is to come back and remove all obstacles to power, centralizing power, and eliminating these checks and balances. This is frightening. Some even think, of course, that the Republicans will definitely amend the Constitution to allow Donald Trump to serve a 3rd term. That's what it is. Donald Trump even tried to control the arts sector by making himself the chairman of the John F. Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts in Washington. That means deciding which plays can be performed and which cannot. They were a famous British scientist who was employed by an American university. When he returned to the UK and then tried to come back, he was denied entry because he had criticized Donald Trump's policies on science. It wasn't even about other sensitive policies, yet he was still denied entry. Donald Trump's allies have consistently advocated for centralized executive power, believing that all authority in the executive branch comes from the president. Now, let me explain this to you. The president is there to execute that power, but that power largely comes from the law, and the law is a separate matter. There are 2 sources of power. One is Congress, and the other is the president. Congress passes laws, and the president signs them, so this is definitely above the president, right? The president agrees. The Congress also agrees. So, Congress combined with the president is certainly greater than the president alone. That's the first point. They now feel that since the president was elected, he has overriding authority. The second point is the administrative bureaucracy. Well, I will explain to everyone. A long time ago. Right? It's like, hey, whenever someone comes to power, they fire all the people from the other side. And if they change people every 4 years, those people don't know how to do their jobs. So what then? So, there is a conventional bureaucratic system, and this system, well, is modeled after China. Actually, it was the British who first learned from China's imperial examination system to select a group of bureaucrats. That group of bureaucrats, they are the ones who implement all the laws, and they shouldn't take a stance on political issues. No matter who is in power, they carry out their duties. Well, obviously in American society, there are some people who are Republicans and some who are Democrats, right? We shouldn't worry about that. The responsibility of the Republicans and Democrats is to carry out the orders handed down from above and to execute them according to the law. And within this execution, they have many rules. There are many rules created during this period. For example, on how to prevent abuse and things like that. Officials, without rules, there can be no lies. Absolutely, right? Because you need to avoid subjective judgments. Everything has to be done by rules. This is how the bureaucratic level works. There are only about 1,000 real political appointees. and now they want to align with the bureaucratic level, excluding those who support the Democratic Party, turning everyone into supporters of theirs. This is extremely dangerous. Why, you ask? As a result, what if they do something illegal or violate human rights, things like that? No one dares to resist because those people all like them. Also, think about it. If the government changes every 4 years, do we have to replace all these mega brands? Using people from the Democratic Party like that is not feasible, right? A professor from George Washington University describes this as electoral authoritarianism, and Singapore is a great example of this. Under the system of electoral authoritarianism, they can vote to protest and criticize the government, but there is a price to pay, and that price is retaliation. He explicitly mentioned retaliation. Donald Trump and Americans elected him, right? What about his FBI director? That person was one of those who made it to the national level, and well, how should I put it? In his book, he said that if he were in charge, who would he retaliate against? There's a list, and it's because of political differences, and he became the FBI director. In this world, right? In a democratic system, you can't use public power against politics. If you use public power against political interests, then there can no longer be a fair election because you're arresting all the opposition, right? I would say Turkey is a very good example of this. Donald Trump is just following the Turkish order on case. It's exactly the same script as strongmen like Orban, and it's happening at lightning speed because he actually wants to. Within this 4-year term, because he doesn't have a second term unless he consolidates power. Once he completes this, the system will be in power forever. He once said there won't be any elections in the future. There's no need for elections, right? That's the end of this segment.